games and pranks you play on each other and other people. Whenever our family would go see my aunt in Florida, we would drive through Tennessee. We loved Tennessee because at this time, it was the only place you could buy fireworks where they were legal, right? Back in that day, when you would buy real bottle rockets. And I would come home, and my friend's Tom Toomey, his house was catty-corner to mine, and I would go to my sister's window, he would go to his brother's window, and we would have a bottle rocket war to see who could shoot bottle rockets into each other's windows. It was absolutely crazy. Gen Xers, raise your hand if you come from the greatest generation this country has ever seen. That's right. As a young boy, we would go fishing at a pond nearby my house, and then we would bring the fish home, and I would keep them in a bathtub. And until they died, my mom hated it. I just remember massive kickball tournaments on the street. We would stay out until the lights came on. And then we had to go home. We drank water out of a garden hose if we were thirsty. The whole goal was to get out of the house. And what I loved the pranks. I saw a reel on Instagram that I thought, I would do this if I lived near the shore. Take a look at this.
All this. Man, you got it all over my fingers.
This looks really good.
This is tonight's dinner.
So they're putting laxatives with French fries, feeding them to the gulls.
Oh, he's calling his friends over.
It's good. Get your ass over.
Explode Fest 2003. We're gonna plan it out. God.
Excellent, dude. Excellent, man. Excellent. Yeah.
I would have totally done that. Absolutely, totally would have done that. I remember in high school, my friend Darren snuck into the high school late at night when the people were going in to clean the building, and he took a big gallon of deer urine. I don't know if guys still do this when you go deer hunting. They used to put deer urine all over themselves. He took a gallon of it and poured it into the principal's office. So in the morning, that whole thing was shut down. It was absolutely hysterical. I just remember going, as a teenager, there was a bridge, a concrete bridge, where there was a railroad track, like there was a road, and then there was this bridge that went over it, and it was concrete. And I remember late at night, my friends and I going to this bridge and spray painting something. We had just won some tournament or something as a high school. And I remember leaning over, spraying it, and then 100 yards away, this train comes barreling at us. And so we turn around and run. We literally had to dive in the bushes as this train went by. And so, young boys that are here, your parents want you to do that stuff. No, that was crazy. There was another reel that I saw about a woman. Nobody told her all the things that would be involved in raising boys. So take a look at this.
Things nobody told me about having boys. They will always have their hands in their pants, playing with their junk like it's an Atari joystick. I keep telling them they can't do it in public, so I guess they're gonna find out the hard way. Every joke is about farts, balls, poop, and again, penises. D's nuts is always the punchline. Your life savings will go to groceries. Their bellies are bottomless pits. They have no volume control. They are loud when they eat, when they open a door, and when their mouth is a half an inch from the microphone on their video game headset. It may be difficult to differentiate between playing and fighting. They could be wrestling for fun, or one could be in a chokehold because his brother's foot crossed the invisible barrier on the couch. So at this point, I just shake my head. Because if nobody is bleeding and everyone has their pants on, I'm gonna mark it down as a good day.
So, boyhood's awesome. My mom was a great boy mom. Everything that woman said in the video is true. After graduating and getting on with my life, I met my friend Darren, back at our hometown pizza place. Where I grew up, there was a pizza place that we went to. Lean to the person next to you and share, what's your hometown pizza place, right? Because no one has pizza like that place that you grew up with. We went to our hometown pizza place and we're talking, and then an old buddy from high school came walking in, and we're like, hey, come on over here. So we just spent the rest of the evening impromptu talking to each other about what everybody was doing, and it was weird because chronologically we were the same age, but he was still doing the same thing at that age, what we were doing in middle school and early high school. Chronological age does not match maturation age. Talking to him reminded me of Chaz from Wedding Crashers. All right, take a look at this.
No, I live with my mom. Oh. Yeah. You hungry? Hey, Ma! We get some meatloaf!
Chaz, I think I'm okay. I had a bite right before I came over. Thank you.
You sure? How's my protege?
Jeremy.
Yeah.
Boy,
J-Bone.
J-Bone is, believe it or not, he's getting married.
What? What an idiot! Oh, what a loser! Good. More for me and you.
I gotta go.
Hey, babe. Yeah. You do whatever you have to do. Okay, be strong. I'm just living the dream.
About 10 years ago in our culture, people began to notice the lack of maturation with young men. And so into this void came what I would call bro influencers. People like Joe Rogan and Tim Ferriss and Jocko Willink and Chris Williamson and Jordan Peterson, all whom I like and add a lot of value to men's lives, began to notice that there were men in their late 20s, into their 30s, into their 40s living like Chaz, if not literally, emotionally. And so guys were told to do more masculine things. The answer to a lack of maturation was to do more guy things. And so they started really promoting jujitsu and hunting elk and lifting weights and all kinds of things. And all of that stuff is great. All of it is fine. But all that does is produce men who are 35 years of age who are still amused by balls, farts, poops, and penises. Who are stuck at a maturation level significantly behind where they currently are. Some of you are married to a man whose maturation is significantly behind what his age is. Some of you have sons that are that way. Some of you have dads that are that way. And so, do jujitsu, be strong, lift weights. I love what this one bro influencer was telling men to do. Take a look at this.
A man under the age of 30 should be able to walk into any room and know if it got real, they could kill and eat everybody or outrun them. You should be really strong and really fast.
Kill and eat everyone and be able to outrun them. That is not the advice your son needs. That's not the advice your dad needs, your husband or your uncle. Because all bro masculinity does is it takes immaturity to a later stage. And the games are fine when you're in middle school. The games are not fine suddenly now when you're in a relationship and you have children and there's money that's on the line. When life gets real, what we need is wisdom from the one who can see the long-term ramifications our behavior will have on our great-grandchildren. Men need a plan that works, designed by the person that made us, that understands masculinity, but is not going to veer off into stupid bro influencer culture, okay? And so this is what this teaching series is all about that we're starting today. We're starting a new series called The 5 Marks of the Man. And whether you're here watching us online or you're here with us in person, we want to let you know that for these 5 weeks, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at the 5 areas every man has to go from boyhood to manhood. And we're going to get very real. And women, I just want you to know this is as much, literally, and you will see, as much for you as it is for the man, because we don't communicate very well. And so there are going to be a lot of times during this series where you're going to be like, that's why my dad did this. That's why you're doing this. This is what you're struggling with right now. At the end of every talk, it's going to be men who are going to do the first part of the sermon, and then a female on staff is going to come out and back cleanup at the end and give reflections. It's sort of like whenever I have a sermon, I go to lunch. You don't get to see what my wife says. Sometimes it was really good. Sometimes she was embarrassed over something. You should never do that, whatever. They're going to come out and they're going to give a reflection at the end and some questions for women to think about. So, we know, women, that you want us to succeed, and what we want to say is that if we're your son, if we're dating you, if we're married, we need you to help us mature, because we're not going to do it on our own. And statistics tell us that a man will not talk to another man about what's going on. Men prefer to talk to women. And so we're trying to break that by getting men into groups where we're going to be transparent, real with one another. But just know that is just the MO of men. Given the choice, we would prefer to talk to a woman than a man. Achilles said, we men are wretched things. We know we haven't had good role models. We know that we have made mistakes. We know we aren't as skilled and comfortable at talking about what's going on inside of ourselves. And so we need your help, not your judgment. We don't need your judgment anymore. We need your help. So fortunately, there's a godly biblical roadmap for all of us to follow as we talk about this, okay? So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the first mark of a man. And that is, boys live day to day. Men have a vision for their lives. Boys live day to day. Men have a vision of who they are and what they're going to do with their lives. Now, what does the Bible have to say with having a vision for your life? We're going to look at a verse that you've heard in weddings, probably a lot, 1 Corinthians 13, but it's 1 Corinthians 13:11. It's the part of that passage you never hear read, and it's this. When I was a child, I talked like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I put the ways of childhood behind me. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to understand that the Greek word for child does not mean a child of a childlike age. And so what I want you to, here's how I want you to say this. When I was a man-child, I talked like a man-child, I thought like a man-child, I reasoned like a man-child. When I became a man, I put the ways of man-childhood behind me. Because the word that's used for children is pais. We get our Greek word pedagogy from this. And it's child, and the pais is child in the ordinary chronological sense. And so that's what Paul could have used. And so if you can go to the next scripture right here. Go to the next one right here. After the festival in Luke, it says, while his parents were returning home, the boy, chronological boy, Jesus, pais, stayed behind in Jerusalem. But that's not the Greek word that Paul uses. The Greek word that Paul uses, go to the next slide, is nepios. We get our word nepotism from it. But it's a person, usually a child, but sometimes a man-child, who is unable to reason and speak clearly. You ever been in a conversation with someone that's 38 and they can't reason or think clearly? The stuff that they're throwing at you, the argument, the testosterone, the rage, underneath all of this, this is what the Apostle Paul's talking about. So my question to you is, you're not a child anymore, but are you a man-child? Are you doing man-child things? Brian Tome says this, he says, the transition to manhood is not marked by age, it is marked by your mindset and your actions. It is about assuming responsibility for your place in the world, stepping into a new reality, one defined by strength, purpose, and a code of honor. And so, if you're a man and you're 19, you're technically not a child anymore. But you see a lot of 19-year-olds acting like a man-child. Just go to Penn State on the weekend. You get to 20, 21, 22. When you graduate college, you're like, oh, I need to go, and I'm an adult now, I need to go into the real world. What the Apostle Paul is saying is that there are people, men, who leave the sphere of actual chronological childhood and they're catapulted out into life, but they're still unable to reason and think like a man would at the particular age. Psychologist Daniel Levison said there are 3 phases that every man goes through. The first one is boyhood. The task is to learn how to be an adult. Your job as a parent, if you have a boy, is to teach that boy how to be a man. Your job is not parenting a child, you are raising a man. And so that's the home run that you're aiming for. When you leave boyhood, you transition to early manhood. Levinson says, early manhood, the task is to build a life. And this is getting an education and a job and family, money, kids, all that sort of thing. When you end all of the stuff, and every man knows there is a time when all the stuff is done, meaning you got your education, you got the job, you got the girl, you got the kids, you got the house, and then you're like, now what? You've done all the things. When that happens, you enter what Levinson calls midlife reckoning. And you have to face the truth and adjust. What truth? The truth of the decisions that you've made and the person that you have become. This, all the way up to 18. This goes up to late 30s. This can happen in late 30s, into the 40s, into the 50s and 60s. In fact, you never leave the midlife reckoning. Talk to any man that is 60 years or older here, and they will tell you that the questions don't end. There is a continual reckoning about becoming the man that God made you to become. So as Levinson says, a man cannot simply move on to the next season of life without resolving the unfinished business of the previous one. What is not dealt with earlier will appear later, often with greater force. The tasks that you have in each of these stages have to be completed before you move on, or you're gonna go to that stage and there's gonna be a huge reckoning that you're gonna have to deal with. We see that when boys go into manhood, and we can see the problems that they're having and how they will cope with the problems that they're having. Same thing that happens when you have a 39-year-old that suddenly was like, there's nothing left for me to do. There are no more hills to climb here. What am I if I am not a husband, a dad, person that works, that sort of thing? So you have this crisis of meaning. The thing is, there's not a man here, me included, who went from boyhood to manhood completely formed. Every single man here has brought into that next stage a level of brokenness, some of us more than others. I remember when my nephew was getting married. and he wanted to get married in Hawaii. So we all flew out to Maui. And that was our vacation that year, to go to my nephew's wedding. And it turned out great. I love my sister, brother-in-law. It was altogether just a lovely experience being there. But they wanted to get married on the beach of Maui. So we spent the better part of a week there doing wedding preparations and going to the beach and that sort of thing. And then we all got ready, and then me, my brother-in-law, my sister's husband, and my dad got in the car, and we drove together to the wedding venue. Now, when we got to the wedding venue and we parked, I leaned over and said something to my brother-in-law. Now, I probably have shared with you, on the day that I got married, before we went out for the ceremony, my dad pulled me aside and said, "Son, here's what you want to do. You're going to have your wedding night tonight. Tomorrow morning, I want you to pick up your pants. And I want you to hold them in the air and yell, 'Who's gonna wear the pants in the family?' Just know if she grabs the pants, you're in trouble." I thought it was cute. It was funny. 36 years go by. And now I'm in the car with my dad and my brother-in-law, and my brother-in-law is gonna go and be with his son right before he's married. So we stopped the car, I leaned over, I put my hand on his shoulder, I said, "Hey, listen, before the wedding ceremony starts, I want you to pull him aside and I want you to tell him, I want you to grab him and I want you to put both hands on his shoulders and I want you to look at him and tell him, you are ready for this. You are going to be a great husband. I have always seen in you the love that you have for your future wife. And I want you to know that your mother and I are going to be here. We believe in you and you are ready." And then I want you to pray for him right now about the family that they're going to form and the great-great-grandchildren that are going to come from this relationship. My dad says, "What about the pants?" And I said, "Yeah, that's second. And then my dad went, because he realized he'd missed it with me. I needed him. I was telling my brother-in-law that because that's what I needed to hear. Now, I don't knock my dad because he was 100 times better than the jerk that raised him. But there's not a person here that doesn't go into each of these stages with a little bit of woundedness. What we have to do as men is acknowledge that. Having a vision, as we say, this is who we are. I'm not going to throw blame on anyone else. Who is responsible? I am responsible. Did I create the mess? No, but I am responsible for cleaning up the mess. Now, nepios was how you would describe my grandfather. Nepios is how you could have described some of us here in this room. Nepios is how you could describe some of the men that are in this room now, some of us now, men, children. So mark number 1 is boys live day to day, men have a vision for their lives. And so what is needed to go from boyhood to early manhood? What you have to do is you have to take responsibility for your life and end the childish games. God told Abraham, go from your father's household. Leave it. You're going to become a man now. And so I have a checklist I want to give to every guy right now going from boyhood at the age of 18 into early manhood. What do you have to do? What are the things that you need to focus on? What are the things that some of your sons need to focus on? Number 1, you need to pay your own way. I have friends that are 29 years old and sit in their parents' basement playing video games all day. Number 2, get a good job. Follow your passion is stupid advice. You want to do something you're good at and you can make money at. The reality is you're going to have, the statistics say, 13 different vocations between now and the time that you retire. The skill that you want is ingenuity and motivation and discipline, not sticking to one particular thing. Number 3, find a good girl who cheers for you. Looks are great, but men don't fight with their wives over looks. They fight because they're constantly being criticized. A good woman is a self-aware woman. There's a saying in counseling circles that all things being even, we tend to marry someone who is as emotionally healthy as we are. We can look to the person, we're like, I am better than you, bull crap. You're both the same. That's why you married each other. Number 4, I want you to get serious about God. The reason I want you to get serious about God is because you're not going to live that long, and you're going to stand before him, but more importantly, he has a vision for your life, and you're going to need him to get through the battles that you're going to face. Number 5, deal with your emotional baggage. This should start in boyhood and not wait until early manhood. But early manhood typically is when we say, I have been running on bad gas, I need to deal with this. Carl Jung says, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Until you realize what is going on behind the scenes that are causing you to act that way. Until you bring it out into the surface and you look at it for what it is. And you have to grieve it because it's involving loss and pain, but then being responsible for it. Until you do that, you're going to call it fate. This is just my life. So I have 10 questions that I want that come from Carl Jung that he designed for men to take the unconscious and get it out in front of you. So these are important for men. And wait till I get all 10 of them, and I want you to snap a photo. They're important not just for men, they're important for women. These are the questions you ask. It's not, why did you do that? Why did you do this? Why aren't you doing this? You should do this. Forget that. These are the kind of questions you want to ask. First one, why do you remain the way you are now? There's no judgment in that. Why do you remain the way you are now? Next. I've been all week, man. This hit me like a 2x4. What would happen to you if your main pain disappeared? I'm not referring to your wife. I'm not referring to your girlfriend, whatever. I'm referring to what is the main pain. And I have gone through so much pain in the last 10 years. I just sat in bed and I was like, okay, just if it was all gone, what would I be now? Who would I be without that? Next one. Where do you play a role every day? We all play roles, but do you understand what the roles are and what the cost is involved with the roles that you play? Next. Which fear are you refusing to face? What is the fear that you're struggling with, that you refuse to face, and how is it getting manifested in your life? How you eat, how you treat people, how you think about yourself. It's all coming from fear. Next. Who are you when no one is watching? And this is positioned as, oh, you lack integrity and you're doing stuff in the dark no, that's not at all what it's saying. It's like, when no one else is watching you and putting expectations on you, who are you? Who are you? Next one. Where does my anger go when I don't express it? Sorry, that should be capitalized. Where does my anger go? Who gets the brunt of my anger when I don't express it in a healthy way? Next. Who did I need my father to be, but he never was? I hate this question to think about it with my dad because my kids also need to think about it with me. And that is where the humility comes in. And that's why you need to deal with this as much as you can, so that we tell our kids all the time, our whole goal is to help you become better than we were. That's it. Next. In what ways am I still rebelling against or imitating my father? Right? I'm imitating what he did, or I'm rebelling against what he did or who he was. Both of these are unhealthy. So we are either imitating our fathers or we're rebelling against our fathers. Next one. What did I build my life around that no longer gives it meaning? We all are building our lives around a goal, a direction. I'm going to do this. I'm going to be this. And that's why when you get to the midlife reckoning, a lot of people are asking this question: what did I build my life around that no longer gives it meaning? I did the stuff that I said I wanted to do, or I didn't do the stuff. What now? So that's early manhood, or that's boyhood to early manhood. Let's talk now about early manhood to midlife reckoning. When all the things are done, usually by the late 30s, sometimes early 40s, sometimes as late as 50s, sometimes into your 60s, if you're really unhealthy as a man, this begins. Levinson says this is the time where every man must face the truth and adjust. And the primary job in early adulthood is establishing. The biggest challenge is settling. So if you're, let's say, 32, your biggest challenge is settling. The biggest challenge that you're going to face in the midlife reckoning is anger, rage. The primary challenge of midlife for men is drifting. Drifting into an unconscious, uncomfortable, unhealthy pattern where months go by, years go by, and there's no vision for their life because they're stuck drifting, and there's this anger underneath them. Lisa has told me at times, "You are the most angry person I have ever met." And what you need to understand is that anger is not necessarily expressed through constant yelling. Anger could be towards a person that's not even alive anymore. I remember when I went into midlife reckoning, and it reminded me of that beginning of Dante's Inferno. In the middle of the journey of our life, I found myself astray in a dark wood where the straight road had been wholly lost. And the things that used to excite me no longer did. The motivation that drove me in my 20s and 30s, I realized actually was bad fuel for me. And so Levinson is right, 40 is a time of reckoning. And unlike many of you who say that a midlife crisis happens once and then you move on, and the midlife crisis is, I'm gonna go buy that car, or I'm gonna go do this thing, or you're gonna be stupid, I'm gonna go have that affair, or I'm gonna leave my family. It's not what a midlife crisis is. You may do those stupid things at midlife, but midlife is a reckoning with who you've become. Remember our verse today. Let's all read this together in the way the Apostle Paul meant it. When I was a man-child, I talked like a man-child. I thought like a man-child. I reasoned like a man-child. When I became a man, I put the ways of man-childhood behind me. What are those ways? The word that the Apostle Paul uses for man is aner. And again, it's not chronological age. It is about taking responsibility. First and foremost, for family and providing and all that kind of stuff, protection. But it's about taking responsibility for who you've become. My question to you is, have you done that yet? Have you taken responsibility for who you've become? That's the moment when you stop drifting and there's intentionality. Midlife reckoning is the time where you ask questions like, is this the life I meant to build? Is this the career I would have chosen? Who am I apart from being a dad or a husband? What do I do in the years that I have left? Because anger is so much a part of this phase, we misplace our anger outwards towards other people. My problem is not me. My problem is you. You're a witch. I hate you. You suck so bad. You bring me down. All you do is this and this and this and this. That's misplaced anger. That's drifting. That is not taking responsibility for your life. Your problem is not that other person or people. It's you unwilling to acknowledge, grieve, and then take responsibility for the man that you've become. There have been some quotes that have helped me about this transition. So for those of you that are in your 30s, going into this phase, for those of you who are already in this, for women that are here that are struggling with how to help men who are going from boyhood to early manhood to that midlife reckoning, listen to these quotes. Midlife is the season when we are asked to let go of who we thought we were supposed to be. Henry Nouwen. Midlife is when we realize that the game we have been playing is not the game we were meant to win. The first half of life is about building the container. The second half is about filling it. If we refuse the second task, the container becomes a prison. Brené Brown says, midlife is when the universe hands you a clipboard and says, be honest now. Parker Palmer says, in midlife we are called to let our lives speak. Not the life we planned, but the life that is unfolding. When we listen carefully, when we hear a voice that says, this far and no farther. Now you must live from a deeper place. And then finally, Richard Rohr, most people do not really grow up. They merely grow older. They keep living out of their first half of their life's programs, trying harder what no longer works. And midlife is the invitation to a necessary humiliation, the surrender of false control, so that a deeper wisdom can finally emerge. So I have 3 big asks for everybody today. Those of you who are at home because of the weather, I want you to back next week. I want everybody to be here for the next 4 weeks as we dive deeper into what we're talking about and the interplay between men, families, and women that are in their lives. So I want to encourage you to be here for the next 4 weeks. Men, I want to encourage you to join a group. You can join a group, you don't have to say anything, but my gosh, will you frickin' man up and join a group for just a few weeks? Come on. Come on. Seriously, come on. You hear us talk about groups all the time. Most of you don't do it enough. Just for this, join a group. This is the one time women are allowed to bug their husbands relentlessly to get them to join that. And then finally, I want to encourage you to buy the book, The 5 Marks of a Man, and begin reading it. My wife should be coming out here. Now, what we're going to do each time, we're going to leave enough room to where, do you need this?
Sure.
Okay. All right. And we haven't talked about this, so I have no idea what you're going to say.
I just know that when I was reading your sermon, I got to the bottom and it said, and I will invite Lisa out. And I was like, to back cleanup? I'm not really sure. But actually, Brian, thank you for that message. I'm glad that he spoke today, introducing this series. And so I'm just going to provide maybe some bonus commentary, translate whatever we want to call it. Becoming a man isn't about age. It's about responsibility. And as the Apostle Paul said, when I became a man, I put the ways of childhood behind me. That was something that really stood out to me. Just talking about, like, it's not chronological. Because as Brian shared, and if you've been around a while, I don't know anybody who adored his father and looked up to and respected his father more than Brian. But even the best of us, no matter how hard we try, no matter how much we surrender, no matter how much we learn, we don't always get it right. There are going to be things in our life that we all need grace for. But when the men in our life, when they're hurting, it impacts us. But when the men in our life choose to make the decision to take responsibility, to say, not to be perfect, but to say, I'm gonna own my own growth. I'm gonna deal with unfinished business in my life. I'm gonna stop blaming. I'm gonna stop drifting. When the men in our life do that, that creates stability for us. It creates safety and trust and men that don't interrupt.
Talk about anger, how it affects women, and how it comes out, not just in yelling. This has been a struggle for us right now.
Whoa, and this was not rehearsed.
No, it wasn't.
This was not written.
I just want to be honest with them.
When you are angry, when my dad was angry, why'd you do this? It creates fear and insecurity. But when our men say, I'm going to take control, I'm going to be better, I'm going to get help, it creates trust and partnership.
Sorry,
And I know that when you're doing those things, I need to step back. Because when I try to compensate, I correct too much. That's not what you need. And it comes from a good place, but it's not going to help you become the man that God has created you to be.
All right, well, thank you for doing this.
And we need to move into communion time.
Okay, this week in dynamic marriage.
Second service will be better. I think for those of you who are here at CCV and you've been around a while, I think one of the things that you appreciate about Brian and his teaching and leadership is that he's real. And he just caught me off guard. And that might be catching you off guard, and I hope you're not too uncomfortable. But I hope you realize and see that when we all strive to be men and women of God, God can work in us and do things that we can't do on our own. And that's something that when we come to communion, we remember, God, thank you for loving me. Thank you for working in me in a way that I can't. And I am just grateful.
Thanks for watching today's message. Make sure to check out Brian's new book, Finding Favor, God's Blessings Beyond Health, Wealth, and Happiness. To sign up for Brian's newsletter, please go to Brian's website at brianjones.com.